This is a book review of Weird Tales. You can't see from here because it's there's no wraparound cover, unfortunately. However, Weird Tales. This is the covers of Weird Tales. Now, I would love to see an updated version of this. It would be really brilliant on really good, super high quality paper, maybe bigger and glossy paper and all that sort of stuff. Would be amazing. However, this was out in 1979 and it was from Jupiter. So it's 128 pages on matte paper. I'm just going to quickly show you by opening there how it holds. So you can see there. And what does it include? It's got an introduction. It's got all the covers. And it, of course, Weird Tales started in 1923, March 1923. And it's got that cover all the way through to 1953 or 54, actually. It expired in September 1954. The last cover is Finlay one, Virgil Finlay, 1953. Doesn't have all of them. And it's got a little brief introduction about the editors, etc. And then through to the first cover. And there was an awful lot of stories in this one. Ooze, it must have been quite a big magazine. Obviously, I haven't got a copy, but I'm certain that there's been reprints, etc., of the Ooze. And I've read the story. It actually wasn't too bad. It wasn't brilliant, but it wasn't too bad. And March 1923. Slight annoying thing about this book, and I'm not certain the reason. It obviously doesn't print the cover in the original size. Obviously would have been a bit bigger, not much bigger, but a bit bigger than that. It certainly wasn't that small. Might have been, but I don't think so. And also it's in duotone, which is an odd choice. And actually the pink/purple, it's really sort of, doesn't really work. It doesn't really, in terms, it makes some of the pages quite murky in places. So, compared with the sharpness of the original, I'm certain if they'd gone for the colour, the full colour range, especially for the first issue, would have made more sense. Now I can understand maybe later on, but there's an awful lot of them in purples and pinks. And sometimes it ends up with a more washed out look. Because I'm certain these covers were absolutely amazing when they're in their original form. And when you look online and you can see the original covers, because of course now people just would look up on Google, etc., or Bing, and they will find these covers. And the squish is good. So, but of course, these books back in 1979, this would have been the real own source, unless you happen to have very deep pockets to be able to buy lots of these Weird Tales. And now they're even more expensive than they were back in 1979. But it's got a blurb about the who's the writer, Frank Belknap Long and Greye La Spina, who I think is a really, really good writer. I really loved Greye La Spina. Would love to see a collection of her work. I've read a few over the years, but of her stories. So, oh well. Weird Tales. Quite often when you look at these ones, you actually, and also when you look at quite a lot of other magazines around that period, there's lots of books where you can find those magazines as well. They often looked very, very staid. And this one doesn't even really suggest weird, horror, or anything particularly. I don't know, it looked more like just a standard action story. Ooh, a couple of guys, he's in chains. That's it. Is that horror? However, the next story, at least the story, is The Werewolf of Ponkert. And this one is, this actually includes the first Robert E. Howard story, Spear and Fang, 1925. And then you've got The Tenants of Brusac by Seabury Quinn. This is first cover for Seabury Quinn's psychic sleuth Jules de Grandin. Nude woman on the front cover. Woman of the Wood. So you've got lots of these ones are all like this, where it's in duotone, which is fine, but it would have been nice if they'd been in the original colour. However, still great to see these stories, these covers. Like I say, you can see them online, maybe slightly better as well. And of course, lots of people, Enterprising Souls, have brought out reprints of all these books now. So, but again, like I say, back in the 70s, this was a great source of these covers. Infidel's Daughter, and there's another one here, Russell Story. Some of the covers were very murky and not particularly good. So there's that one there. I mean, you just wonder when the editor looked at that and said, well, that's what we're going to go with. It just didn't really bring out the best of covers. I'm certain these magazines could have had infinitely superior covers to sell them. I mean, that one's pretty good, The Devil Plant. So you got The Devil, one of the more fantastic covers by Senf, about plants created by a botanist. Also includes the first story by Clark Ashton Smith. Oh, this one's got Robert E. Howard's The Mirrors of Tzum Thrum, The White Wizard. Doesn't even actually, it's got H.P. Lovecraft, of course, but the book is for The White Wizard by Sophie Wenzel Ellis. So it's these were 25 cents, 30 cents in Canada, no less. So you've got a gorilla on the front, or an ape. Ape, I guess. So some of the covers are just plain odd, I have to say. When you look through these covers, they are just odd. Could be Odd Tales, would have been better. I mean, you just got the goose flesh vampire story. Got bat, or vampire, obviously. For the love of a vampire girl, no less. However, you've actually got some colour. There's some colour here. But the thing is always when you look at these, and this is the thing I love about these books, is of course you see the original Conan. So you've got Conan here. Now he's got, very oddly, holding a sword, or a little knife I should say, more not a sword even particularly, a very weird angle. It doesn't even really look very, personally. You've got this bird creature sort of hovering over him. And Conan does not look anything remotely like the Conan that we've sort of we expect from Conan. So it's very odd. And lots of these covers very rarely seem to actually feature Conan. You got like here, A Witch Shall Be Born. So you got The Witch Shall Be Born, and you've just got someone, obviously, this woman with a lash. But you wouldn't know that's a Conan story. Surely that's what's selling the book. It's going to be a Conan story. I know it's got Robert E. Howard, and anyone that would know that's what must get that because it's got Robert E. Howard. Actually, when you flick through this, it's amazing how few. Certainly, maybe this book is showing a poor selection of, so that's unfair to turn around and say, but there's no H.P. Lovecraft covers. I mean, I've just been going through this and I'm really quite surprised, actually. You just flick through here. People of the Black Circle, obviously R.E. Howard again. Clutching Hands of Death, Harold Ward. Vengeance, Edmund Hamilton. Hour of the Dragon, of course, classic Hour of the Dragon. Again, you've got Conan looking feeble. Relatively feeble anyway. Dr. Satan, that would have been good. Cover by Brundage was for Dr. Satan. That was by Paul Ernst. Now, that looks pretty good. But you've got no covers for H.P. Lovecraft. And yet, for me, H.P. Lovecraft was, as well as R.E. Howard, of course, was Weird Tales. Just seems odd. You've got an Edgar Allan Poe and The Raven. I mean, odd. However, unfortunately, I said the covers, because they're small, they're very small in some of these. You've got some are quite big, and some are very small. Some are quite murky, so the quality is not brilliant. This is Hans Bock. I'm certain that they were sharper than that. So another Hans Bock cover there, 1941. Honestly, I struggle to see how this would have sold. You got a peacock. There's a lovely one. Peacock on the cover. Why would that have sold a horror magazine, a Weird Tales? I mean, that just does not. Just so odd. So odd. However, it is still good. And this one here, March 1947, this is on page 114. Because of the duotone, you can hardly see it. Literally, it's virtually, I can't even make it out. It looks like the moon and something, some sort of haunted house. Can't work it out. But you've got this lovely one with a witch on the next side, and then all the way through to the last original Finlay cover. This was 1953. A horror from the sea which kills people. So, pretty gruesome. And that's that. An absolutely brilliant book all the same. I thoroughly enjoyed this book. and it's just lovely looking through these great covers. And I love Weird Tales. The Weird Tales book, sadly, I no longer have got any copies of Weird Tales. I regret getting rid of, I had only about 3 or 4 copies of, and they were only like 1940s ones. They were not the older 1930s, 20s, etc. But I love Weird Tales. I had loads of the books and thoroughly enjoyed reading the stories over the years. So Weird Tales, Alistair Durie, 1979, really worth picking up a copy of this book. I think it's just great. So that's my recommendation for this Weird Tales book.